Yeah, should have another scrimmage on Wednesday. I think it will be a great opportunity for guys to kind of prove, the growth that they've made from scrimmage 1 to scrimmage 2. You've seen improvement. You've seen a greater sense of urgency. I think our guys on both sides of the ball have had a greater understanding of what we're trying to do. But I think it's always good when you get everybody off the field and guys just got to go play and make plays on both sides of the ball. So looking forward to that here midweek. I think there's a lot of things that you kind of understood. Mackenzie, when he's got the ball in his hands, he's got an opportunity to extend and make plays with his feet, throwing the ball down the field as well. I think we got playmakers in all areas. I think you look at wide out, the guys that are returning, running backs certainly have that ability. The unknown was a little bit at tight end with a couple, high-level players that graduated, have a chance to go in the draft. What guys were going to step forward. We've seen that a little bit, and still got a lot of growth. I think, continuing to build depth up front is something that's critical. As much as anything, I think the next 5-6 days is continuing to develop leadership in all of our rooms. This is year 1 in our system, I guess. So some of the verbiage we've tried to help in the learning curve for those guys, but still, when you're out there on the field and it's the first time you're kind of going through things in a system, it's hard to be a vocal leader all the time because you're just trying to worry about your job as well. So continuing to push those guys here as we finish up spring ball. I thought they did a really good job in pass protections, scheme-wise, what they were doing. They got a hat on a hat. I thought they were good in their communication. If I was to pick out one thing right now, I think the strongest attribute we have is that they do communicate really well. They play 5 guys together because of that communication. Still got to do some things better in some of the fundamentals of technique that we're asking them to do, but I think if we continue to develop depth at that position, it's got a chance to be a really strong unit for us next fall. Yeah, if they're playing well offensively, the 5 guys up front and the tight ends, if they're playing in the core, are playing physical, they're playing assignment sound, they're communicating at a really high level, and creating space for your quarterback in the pocket, creating space for your running back in the run game. And it's going to be critical for us that those guys play at a high level for us to have a chance to be successful. Doing a good job. He's dramatically changed his body from when he got here in January. Dropped a lot of weight, changed his body composition. He's moving better because of that. I think he's strengthened his shoulder that was injured previously before he went into junior college. So I think I like what he's doing. There's still a lot of growth, I think, before he gets back in training camp with what he can do just fundamentally and then physically with the transformation in the weight room he can make. They used him in multiple spots last year. That's certainly the skill set that he has, and so he gives you the ability to be multiple in your formations when you're playing with tempo, and I think that's something that if you're going to play with tempo is critical. Tight ends are typically a guy that can do that. They play in the box, they play off the line, and then spread out into wide receiver alignments. He's got the ability to play in the backfield and then split out and play a wide receiver position. Early in spring ball, we probably majored in him playing out at the wide receiver position because I think fundamentally technique, understanding spacing, all those things, that's probably the hardest growth pattern for him. He's played a lot of running back as well. I think that's the most natural position for him, understanding schemes, aiming points, all of that. Certainly there's some differences in what we're doing in the run game compared to a year ago, but I think he's made a really easy transition in that and continuing to get a lot of reps at both positions. We've been trying to get all the older alumni back here. I know there's a bunch of guys that have reached out that are going to be back here for the spring game. It's important that they're a part of this. This is their home. They've built it. Our staff and the people here recognize what they've done to make UCF football and the brand of UCF what it is today. I think it's great when you can get players back here to speak to what it means to play here. All right, what the 4 years here in college meant to them, and then also if they're a guy that went on to the next level, what they learned in that process, things that they may do differently, and to help put themselves in a position to be successful. And I think whenever your players can pick up a nugget or two from a guy like that, it'll help them continue to achieve greatness. Yeah, I met him. He came by here maybe my second week on the job. I got a chance to meet him. Didn't get a chance to talk to him here after practice, but there's quite a few former staff members that have been back on the practice field as well, and we like guys being around. I think it creates an environment for our players that creates a competitive environment when there's people to show out for. There's competition at that position. I think they've done a tremendous job of getting better in the run game, pad level, aiming points, playing fundamentally sound, playing with the base, using their hands. And I think as much as anything, that's, in 15 days we wanted to see them really grow in that position. I think Coach Cooper's done a great job of continuing to develop them fundamentally, and then we've seen some of those guys have the ability to make play in the pass game as well. I think the old guys are practicing with a purpose for the most part. We got some good leadership. We got to continue to develop it in every one of our position rooms. I think we still need a guy on both sides of the ball to kind of step forward and be that guy. But part of that is, they're playing in their first year in this scheme, and so when you're leading, you want to make sure that you're doing it right all the time too. And so there's early in spring ball, I think it's hard to do that because you're worried about your assignment. I think as we continue here the last 4 or 5 days, we'll see more of that, and then I think when we get into training camp and through summer, we'll see a lot more of that from some of those guys. Well, I think you come in here and you're starting from ground zero, right? There's been a lot of really good leadership inside of this program, I think, and I got that from talking to the players the first 2 weeks that I was here. We voted on a leadership council, guys that we're going to lead in each class, a couple guys maybe at each position. And those guys have taken some ownership of it, but it's continuing to put them in a platform to take ownership of the team, to speak up. It's partly, us helping those guys develop in some of those traits. Absolutely. Looking forward to the first scrimmage here, or the second scrimmage here on Wednesday. But absolutely, I think everyone here is excited about getting back on the field inside the stadium. Should have a great crowd here, and players have an opportunity to go out and play in front of friends and family and kind of showcase the work that they've put into it since January. As much as anything, I think we had great competition, right? And you've heard me, use that word quite a bit around here. Our guys competed snap to whistle. There's a lot of things that we got to get better at once the whistle happened, getting our eyes back, getting the line correctly, playing assignment sound on both sides of the ball. But our guys do compete and like to play, and I think that's the number one trait that we're looking for in this team.